Growing up, I had 3 channels I would watch on the daily: Nickelodeon, Disney Channel, and Cartoon Network. And in my mind, Cartoon Network was always the GOAT. I way preferred cartoons over Disney Channel live action shows, and as much as I loved SpongeBob, it felt like that's all Nickelodeon ever played. Cartoon Network had comedy, action, and anime, not to mention Adult Swim, which introduced me to Family Guy and weird-ass shows like Fully Cooley. So yeah, I loved Cartoon Network, and I've discovered there's a whole world of toys based on these shows that I somehow never knew about. What's good, internet? Jake here. Dumb as ever. And in today's video, we're going to discuss some toys based on Cartoon Network shows. To be clear, we're not covering every toy line based on a Cartoon Network show, just a few that I think are pretty popular and have interesting toys. If there's a show/toy line that I don't cover here that you'd like to see me talk about, please drop it below in the comments. And please consider liking and subscribing to help me defeat the villainous algorithm. I feel like Adventure Time is so popular that I barely need to intro it. It's been referenced in Tyler, the Creator songs, and Deadpool. I think the public is aware of the show. But, as briefly as possible, Adventure Time is a Cartoon Network show created by Pendleton Ward, starring Jake the dog, who is a magic dog with Mr. Fantastic-esque stretching powers, and Finn the human, a human boy. The show is about the duo's adventures in the land of Ooh, a magical world where it seems like literally anything is possible. The show was massively successful thanks to its unique humor, solid art style, and world building, which helped you connect to the characters over time as their stories unraveled. And while it started episodic, Adventure Time definitely began leaning towards serialized storytelling, especially towards the end of the show with their mini-series like Islands and Stakes. I actually didn't watch Adventure Time much at all as it was airing. At some point I discovered computers and worse, World of Warcraft, meaning I was not really paying attention to cartoons as much, and I missed some new era classics like Adventure Time. But I have actually watched the show like 2 times in full, and a bunch of episodes I've seen 3 to 4 times, because my girlfriend absolutely loves the show, and she is one of those people that likes to rewatch their favorite show or movie a lot, which I actually respect. As much as I love media, I don't find a lot of comfort in rewatching stuff. Part of me feels like I'm wasting my valuable time on Earth rewatching something I've already seen. And I do think it's a problem to think about things like that, because realistically, I'll never watch everything I want to watch anyway, so why am I worrying about it? Regardless, if there's any show that can be watched over and over, it's Adventure Time, with its massive library of episodes, most of which can be enjoyed standalone. Adventure Time ended in 2018, but has had 2 spin-off shows on HBO Max, Distant Lands and Fiona and Cake. Distant Lands was hit or miss for me, but I thought Fiona and Cake was excellent. It gave some closure to the Ice King's story and tied up some loose ends from the finale. Anyway, let's talk toys. In 2012, Jazwares put out a line of Adventure Time figures featuring miniatures, basic figures, and 10-inch deluxe figures. I feel like toy companies used to go hard on the 2-inch miniatures back in the day, and I kind of miss it. It's a great way to build a collection of characters, even though they're small. The basic action figure line is hit or miss. Specifically, they missed big time with their Finn and Jake figures, officially called Stretchy Finn and Stretchy Jake. They have rubbery pre-posed arms. Finn is okay, with his legs being decently articulated and having rotation at his neck. Unfortunately, because of the stretchy arms gimmick, you can't pose his arms at all, and they really aren't even that stretchy. He can hold his sword though, which is more than I can say for Jake. His giant fist accessory leaves his arm looking a little bit limp, and his articulation is even worse than Finn's. They really fumbled the main 2, but the other figures in the line are surprisingly decent. There's a Beemo figure with an adorable face-changing gimmick, which I like. Ice King is fairly simple, but he does come with Ricardio, his heart that comes to life in the show. Jake in Finn's suit is just a cool toy. It's from an episode where Finn wears Jake like a powered-up form, but Jake keeps getting hurt in the process because it's like his body still. It's a fun episode, and this is a fun idea for a toy, though I don't like its arm articulation. You can only move the arms side to side. Transformers fans call this type of articulation gorilla arms. Marceline is probably the best figure in the line. She's fully articulated and comes with her base and an alternate jump scare head. Because her limbs are so gangly, they even included a flight stand so she can float like she does in the show. Marceline feels like a cut above all the other figures, and she's the last figure of the basic line. The last 2 toys from Jazwares I'm going to talk about are the 10-inch Finn and Jake. Finn is way better than his basic basic counterpart. Instead of rubbery, pre-posed limbs, he has bendy arms, which are rubber arms with a wire inside that helps them hold their poses. This works a lot better for Finn in my opinion. I personally would prefer normally articulated arms, but bendy arms are not the worst. Finn also comes with his backpack, which can open, I like that, and he comes with a face changing gimmick with some really expressive alternate looks, which is perfect for a toy from this show. Jake has the rubbery arm sadly, but he does have 5 different expressions you can give him using face plates. He kind of works like a Mr. Potato Head, and he even has a little compartment to store the faces just like Potato Head toys. And that is the only toy line Adventure Time has gotten. For such a long running show with such a rich world and cast of characters, I'm completely flabbergasted by the lack of toys. There's plenty of collectibles, and there's even some Lego sets, but no ongoing toy line since Jazwares in 2012. Recently, like a couple months ago, a high-end toy company called Mondo announced a set of Finn and Jake action figures. Finn is 8 inches tall, while Jake is 5 inches, and these toys look absolutely fantastic. They use bendy arms just like the Jazwares 10-inch Finn, though the Mondo arms look way more seamless. And they come with different expressions and some weapons, and just genuinely look like the best action figures you could possibly get of the pair, with a price tag to match. These puppies are going to cost you quite a few gold coins at $135 for the set of 2. You're obviously paying for the quality here, but it is enough money to make me sweat a little. These guys are up for pre-order as of writing this, and are supposed to ship in September. So if these are in need, I would jump on it. Hopefully we'll get more characters in this style like Bonnie and Marcy or Ice King. What I really want is a 4 to 5 inch basic action figure line. I'm thinking along the lines of Jakks Pacific's current toy line based on The Simpsons. There are so many characters and alternate outfits for Finn and Jake from the show that the toy line's roster would basically fill itself out. It kind of boggles my mind that this doesn't already exist. I love Adventure Time. I even named my dog Finn so I can be Jake the human and he's Finn the dog. So I would love it so much if we got a mainline Adventure Time toy line. I'd buy every figure. Dexter's Laboratory is one of those all-time classic Cartoon Network shows. Created by Jindy Tartakovsky, who would later create Samurai Jack and works in the animation industry to this day. Dexter's Lab is about a young genius named Dexter who has an unspecified European accent and a gigantic secret lab. He often performs experiments or creates inventions to solve whatever problems he's having, and he's usually annoyed by his overly hyper sister Dee Dee for fighting his rival Mandark, who is played by the same guy that voices that annoying kid from Polar Express.
You guys want to hear Sicko Mode or Mobamba? Huh? Sicko Mode or Mobamba.
The Dexter's Lab toy line was made by Trendmasters, who I've discussed on the channel when I was talking about the 1998 Godzilla movie. Godzilla was Trendmasters' bread and butter, but they did dip into other stuff like Dexter. The Dexter toy line ran super short, and the only action figures that came out featured Dexter using different technology. My favorite is the Super Robot set, which features a domed robot suit that a small Dexter can pilot. The articulation is decent and the arms have launching missiles. The small Dexter is fun, with very little articulation, but that does make sense given his design. Something funny to me is that they only painted the front of his glasses, even though the sculpting implies the rest of the glasses should have been painted as well. I don't know, it just looks weird to me, like his flesh is suction cupped to his glasses. There was also a pack that has a bird-looking robot that can come apart, leaving Dexter with some cool robot pants. The last of the basic series is a rocket ship for Dexter that again splits apart, leaving Dexter in a little astronaut suit. There was also a laboratory playset which had a 5-inch Dexter toy and a computer thing for him to test on his lab monkey. And weirdly, the set also featured a small Dee Dee figure. I don't know why she's so small, maybe an experiment gone wrong. There were small figures of Dee Dee and Mandark included in a set with Dexter, but sadly this is the only Mandark figure. The last and probably coolest toy is the walking robot, another mech for Dexter to pilot, but this one is much bigger and motorized. I like any toy that's motorized and can walk. This is so fun to me. Sadly, this line was not long for this world. I think the primary focus on Dexter is a little lame. All of the toys are focused on him in some way, so we never got cool Mandark, Dee Dee, Mom, or Dad action figures. Dexter is a pretty old show at this point, and while he's been in some banger memes, I do feel like the cultural relevance is fading a bit, so I doubt we will see a retail toy line with Dexter, but I could def see some high-end toys from a collector's company like Mondo. Code Lyoko is a show by Moonscoop, a French television company. You may recognize the Moonscoop logo from that Fantastic Four cartoon you only vaguely remember. I remember noticing that show and Code Lyoko had that logo in their intros and being like, whoa. I think my synapses fired in that moment, and it made me realize companies can make multiple different cartoons. Code Lyoko is a show about teens that find a supercomputer in an abandoned warehouse. This computer gives them access to Lyoko, a digital world that's being invaded by Xana, a corrupt AI that wants to get out of the machine and destroy Earth. To fight it, the kids virtualize themselves and enter the digital world. The show cleverly conveys this through using 2D animation to represent the real world, while 3D CGI animation was used for the virtual world. Code Lyoko was always a show I only paid half attention to as a kid. Like, I thought it was cool for sure, but the character designs were a little bit off-putting with their gigantic foreheads, and while I wasn't a super big critic as a kid, I did hate a lot of the characters' voices. They just came off hella annoying to me. Learning the show was made by French people makes so much sense though. It tries really hard to be anime, but this show is so French with its setting, character names, and general vibe. Hell, the original name for Code Lyoko was Garage Kids, which is the most French shit I've ever heard. It was a decent watch though, and I especially liked the monster designs. I read that the show creators were inspired by Neon Genesis Evangelion, and I can definitely see it in their monsters. My favorite was always the one that looked like a big block, old Minecraft looking monster. Though I'm also fond of the big spheres that can open and reveals what looks like guts. Just really cool alien enemies. And I liked it when the monsters would make it into the real world. I just like to see the 2D versions of them. Side note, I was hyped as hell for the Timmy Jimmy Power Hours on Nickelodeon for the same reason. I just really like seeing different designs translated into other art styles. Anyway, Code Lyoko lasted for 4 seasons and then had a live-action sequel series called Code Lyoko Evolution. The sequel show is not nearly as popular as the original, and I can see why. Most of the show feels miscast, and the 3D sections somehow look worse than the original. Like, obviously the 3D in the original show isn't Oscar-worthy, but you can tell there was significant effort put in, while Evolution's 3D segments are giving more Cocomelon vibes than I'd like to see. I don't think doing a live-action / 3D version is a bad idea. They just need to put the money they save on the 2D cartoon into the 3D cartoon. By the way, all of Code Lyoko is available on YouTube officially. Most of it is dubbed in English except for Evolution. The original run of toys for Code Lyoko were made by Marvel Toys. Yes, that Marvel. I actually only remember the Code Lyoko toy line because I would see ads for them in my Marvel comic books. Marvel Toys' Code Lyoko line lasted for 3 waves and gave you all the virtualized main characters as well as their vehicles. I always thought Ulrich's overbike was so cool, and this toy seems like a perfect little replica. The toys are also well articulated, foregoing action features in favor of just being solid toys. Ulrich and Odd got 2 figures, one version with their vehicles and another version that comes with the virtualization chamber. It has a cool gimmick where Odd and Ulrich are sculpted into one side of the rotating door, so you can simulate them getting simulated. The line also featured Yumi and Aelita. The latter comes with a display base that just has a screen that says Code Lyoko on it. Sadly, there is no toy for Jeremy, the kid that runs a supercomputer and was the first guy to get parasocial with the VTuber. There were also 2 Xana monsters, the Block Guy and the Incredible Sphere Guy, and they both look like fantastic recreations from the show. A 3rd series featured more action feature-y toys than the previous waves, and each figure had pieces to build the large crab monster from the show, which is awesome. The line pretty much ended from there. Maybe it didn't do too well, or maybe Marvel Toys was just struggling. Some toys for Moonscoop's Fantastic Four show were also supposed to come out, and even had painted prototypes and ad space in comics, but the toys never released. And they look pretty cool too. I think the designs in that show were sick, but there were more Code Lyoko toys released, believe it or not. In 2011, the Spanish toy company Simba made an extensive action figure line that mostly covered season 4 of the show, which gave the main characters some new looks and added a 6th member to the team, William. The Simba toys were only available in Spain, so they're kind of a rarity and are sought after by Code Lyoko collectors. The toy line had every virtualized character with their new season 4 looks, as well as quote-unquote real versions of the characters, aka they're not in the computer forms. This is awesome, and one set even gives you a Jeremy figure. You can finally have a dorky tier 3 subscriber in toy form. By the way, did I mention I have a YouTube membership? Only $1 a month. I'm just saying way less than a tier 3 sub. Jeremy also comes with approximation of the supercomputer, though it looks more like my setup. The real characters have somewhat limited articulation cartoon, while the virtualized characters have really good posability. The previously mentioned 6th member, William, is also in the line, and he looks awesome. In the show, he's mind controlled by Xana, so he's a villain for most of the season, and serves as the main bad guy toy for the line, though there are multi-packs featuring some Xana monsters, and there are also new vehicles in addition to the previous ones. Basically, this line is fantastic, and would be a fantastic offering for any show. I don't think Code Lyoko is my favorite thing, but it had some sauce, and for an early 2000s kid cartoon, it tried to push boundaries, even though I feel like the bad voice acting and sense of humor detracted from it a lot. Codename Kids Next Door was always one of my favorite cartoons. It's about a secret organization of kids that work to stop villainous adults like pirates that steal candy, or a weirdo that gives kids the flu so they can't play outside. The main kids of the KND use special equipment called 2x4 technology that can suit any situation, and they always have acronym names like FRAPPE, which stands for Fires, Rings, and Paralyzes Potential Enemies. The cartoon was awesome, and I never realized there was a toy line until I started research for this video. There were 3 main lines of toys for KND. First, we have the small Micros line of figures, standing at 1.5 inches tall, that would come in multi-packs, usually with the 5 main kids and a villain. The final set was the Colossaliner playset, a massive boat equipped with spaceships as jet engines. The playset comes with the Colossaliner, a truck, the 5 kids, and their arch enemy, Father. Seems like a pretty awesome playset, and would probably scale okay with our next line of figures. They were a slightly larger line of figures, standing at 3 inches, that would come in collector sets and vehicles. Unlike the Micros, these figures have a few points of articulation and could hold weapons. They came in packs of 5 with different outfits, as well as some vehicles like the Roadstar, a flying car, and there was also the Skidood, which is described as a jet ski motorcycle. And finally, the larger 5-inch line, which featured articulated versions of the 5 main kids and one of their villains, the Common Cold. It is so difficult to find any footage or even pictures of these 5-inch figures. There's this commercial, but besides that, I was only able to find images of number 1 and number 5. Number 5 kinda looks bizarre since they didn't give her eyes. Obviously they're simulating how her hat hides her eyes in the show, but just leaving the plastic blank is a weird choice. They should have painted a shadow or something, or they could have just given her eyes. Besides that, she and number 1 look excellent, and I suspect all the others are awesome too. I think they really nailed the look of the characters, and I think the designs lend themselves surprisingly well to 3D models. Now, there were actually a bunch of toys canceled. The 3-inch collector's line of figures were actually supposed to be released through mission packs, but never were, so we only ended up with the multi-packs and a couple vehicles. The mission packs were going to have a bunch of villains at this scale as well, like Candy Beard and Grandma Stuff'em. This guy on YouTube was able to get painted prototypes of the Grandma Stuff'em mission pack through a random lot on eBay. So if you're a collector, I would be on the lookout. Though be prepared to break the bank if you truly want these. There's even more canceled toys, including a vehicle set for the Hippie Hop. The Hippie Hop is number 3's personal mecha that looks like a rabbit with wheels. It looks like it could transform, but it never does in the show. There's a running gag where Hippie Hop is destroyed in every episode it appears in, so it hardly does anything cool, but having a toy of it would be so awesome. And it sucks that this set got canceled. Also, by the way, all of the characters wear bright, specific colors, have code names, and some of them use mecha. Nice try, Kids Next Door. I know Super Sentai when I see it. There was a whole line of action figures that were canceled. These were called Mega Figures that seemed like a deluxe version of the action figure line, and primarily featured villains as well as armored up forms of the kids. We really missed out, man. They were going to make Night Brace, which was one of my favorite villains design-wise, and they were also going to make the delightful children from down the lane, who were a direct foil to the K&D and worked for Father. They always stand next to each other, so the Mega Figure would have been 5 different figures that stand on a platform together, which is really cool. Speak of the devil, there was also a Father figure planned, as well as the Toilinator, who was mostly a joke villain who had the power to control toilets. It's really sad these toys got canceled. The line seemed like it was shaping up to be something really cool. But at least you can, in theory, collect the main cast, though it is expensive. They also somehow never made a Rainbow Monkey plush, though you can literally buy one on Amazon right now. It's not official, but I don't think any official Rainbow Monkey merch is happening anytime soon. I know at least a few years ago, K&D had a really dedicated fan base that was campaigning to bring it back. I don't know if that will ever happen, but I think it would be cool. I think you could go anywhere in the K&D universe and have a cool time. Regular Show is about Mordecai and Rigby, two 20-somethings working as groundskeepers at a park and doing their best to goof off in the meantime. For a Cartoon Network show, Regular Show feels very adult in some ways. The characters are silly, but they're not constantly boisterous or in your face, and the main story being about two guys in their 20s working a lame job is pretty interesting as a product meant to appeal to kids. Of course, the show isn't drab or anything. Most episodes take a completely normal situation and stretch it into a world-ending scenario. Like Adventure Time, I kinda miss the wave with the Regular Show. But I do remember some episodes like The Power, which is the one where they go ham boning a bunch, and that was a powerful vocal stem for me as a child. I also remember the show because in one of the episodes, Mordecai says,
"You pissed me off."
Which blew my freaking mind as a kid. In what world was a cartoon character allowed to say a word I wasn't? The creator of the show, J.G. Quintel, is a Grandmaster chill-ass viber. He also voices a Mordecai on the show, and somehow he and Mordecai look alike. I cannot explain it. Jazwares, who we've previously discussed in the Adventure Time section, also did the toy line for Regular Show, and you'll see there are a lot of similarities in their approach. The line focused on 3-inch figures primarily, and only released a few 4 to 6-inch action figures before the line ended. The 3-inch figures are chill, and you can get the main cast at least, which is nice. There is a bizarre toy of Rigby with this freaky opening and closing mouth. It would be a cool gimmick, but it looks like the skin was stripped from his lower jaw. This toy was so weird, it was referenced in the special episode Brilliant Century Duck Crisis Special, which is a whole episode dedicated to parroting tokusatsu and anime, primarily referencing mech suit shows like Gundam and Evangelion. In the episode, a toy company approaches Mordecai and Rigby to make toys using their likeness. But Mordecai and Rigby refuse, citing the company's poor toy quality and they don't want to sell out. The company offers them prototypes and Rigby's toy looks exactly like the weird moving jaw one. This is super fun and makes these the only toys to actually get referenced in the show they're based on. There were also some Toys R Us exclusives that came with those 80s glasses with the lines in the middle so you can't see. The 6-inch line sadly only had 2 versions of both Mordecai and Rigby, with the only differences between the two being accessories. The second versions come with the much cooler accessories like a lawnmower or the power glove. There was actually a third Mordecai that was a San Diego Comic-Con exclusive. This version has him wearing a shirt that says SD Comic Con and comes with a concept sketchbook. The figures themselves are fantastic, with great likeness to the cartoon and decent articulation, though Mordecai has issues standing due to his thin legs and small feet. Clear plastic stands should really be the standard for the mid-2010s noodle limb designs. They look cool as toys, but there is a lot of breakage and posing issues that come up. On the back of the packaging for the second Mordecai and Rigby releases, you can see an advertisement for 6-inch Skips and Muscle Man, neither of which came out, sadly. I was reading Reddit and some people erroneously thought this version of Skips was a 6-inch version, but after some research, that is incorrect. He is a 3-inch figure. He did come out way late in the line, possibly as an unmarked Toys R Us exclusive, so I can see why the mistake was made, but the 6-inch Skips is different. Muscle Man looks like he would have had High Five Ghost as well, maybe as a little piece that could plug into his back so it looks like the ghost is floating next to him. It's a shame we never got these figures, and I really have to wonder what was going on with Jazwares to pick up and fumble both the Regular Show and Adventure Time. Regular Show deserves better, so hopefully the nostalgia really kicks in and we get some new Mordecai and Rigby toys. Wow, cartoons are so epic. I wish they were real. Thanks for watching the video. Please like and subscribe if you enjoyed and want more. And if you want to support the channel further, I have a YouTube membership and Patreon, both of which only cost $1 and give you access to an exclusive Discord where we have monthly movie nights. Next month's movie night is Godzilla Minus One, a fantastic movie and an excellent gateway drug to the Godzilla franchise. We will be watching Godzilla Minus One on May 10th at 6 p.m. EST. Alright y'all, I'll see you in the next one. Ciao.